Thanks a lot for coming.
No problem. I'm happy to be here. It's cool. I like the setup.
Yeah.
I like everything. Yeah.
Is it a good vibe?
It's a pretty good vibe. I think. Yeah, I've been here 5 minutes. I'd say the vibe is just right.
Okay, because
Yeah.
people show up and I start recording them, so I need them to come in and feel comfortable right
For
away.
sure. No, I'm good. I love the seat. I love. I got my French vanilla black coffee here. Yeah.
Nice.
No, I'm in my zone.
Nice. And you had a late night, right?
I had a late night. Well, we were in Trenton last night doing one. We have our morning wood tour, me and my buddies, and we got back around 12:30, and then we went to Comedy Bar, and then I broke off and went with a bunch of other comics to some after hours joint, which I don't work well in at all. They were playing like drum and bass music, and they had like a live setup with a band and like some people, but it's not my vibe. I'm like a dive bar guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you like sitting and talking.
I like sitting and talking, yeah, depending on what mood. Sometimes I don't like talking. Sometimes I just like...
Sitting in a rough place.
I just like my little corner. Yeah. I'm like one of the villains in a Disney movie that they meet in the back of a tavern.
And you've got the voice for it.
I have the voice of a bad person, yes. I have a voice of a nefarious being.
You could be in like the film noir, and he's narrating his situation.
Yes, I could. I could be, the narrator in a Billy Wilder movie, if you're familiar with him.
Billy Wilder sounds familiar.
Billy Wilder is like one of the all-time great directors. He did like Some Like It Hot, it's like an old comedy from Jack Lemmon and...
where they're dressed up as...
Yeah, as women.
Yeah,
it's like one of the first ones. Yeah, he was provocative, that director, for his, like, he was making movies then that would be provocative now.
That's impressive.
Yeah, he was dealing with, like, adultery. Have you ever seen Sunset Boulevard?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. But, and then he did a few more, like The Apartment with, you ever see that? 1960?
No.
Jack Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon, so he's older at that point? Like, not an old guy.
No, he's like, I would say he was maybe 40.
Okay.
Maybe. So he wasn't an old guy, but he wasn't a kid anymore. But he's a guy who sells his apartment out to his boss and all the boss's buddies and people up in like the upper offices, so they can cheat on their wives.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's provocative. For that time, that was provocative.
Yeah.
It would be even more provocative now, I feel. Or not maybe more provocative, but it would still be like, ooh, the guy's like an adulterer.
Yeah, you weren't admitting to those things happening unless it was in a very controlled, this was bad.
Yeah. What were you saying about the neo-noir thing? Because I feel like I just went...
Oh.
Any opportunity I have to showcase my film knowledge, I will...
Just your voice fitting into a noir.
Yes.
But I think we were talking about being out at the club with the comedians.
Yeah.
And you wanted to be in a dive bar. I'm cool with, being at the club. The one thing that comedians do that I don't like is the karaoke.
Karaoke's becoming way too fashionable. It's a little much.
We need to stop this, right?
We need to. It should be a law, I think. Yeah. I think you should pass an exam before you
I think it's
do any singing.
I think it's gonna go the other way.
Well, the thing is, karaoke used to be a fairly sloppy thing. It was, it seems a little more communal now, where it's like comedians that, after they're done doing stand-up, they're just doing the karaoke and singing, and it's like the same songs that they pick every time. But it's, I think, you know what? I don't even know. Because I'm not a karaoke guy. I've only done it maybe, I could count on one hand the amount of times I've done karaoke.
Oh, wait, can you sing though?
No, I can't sing. I'm a terrible singer.
Okay.
I did rap for a while back in the day.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was a white rapper. Yeah, I was too real though. I had to retire. That's what I always say.
I feel like we don't have enough white rappers.
I feel like we have one too many. I'm almost the exact opposite of this argument. That's why I did everybody a favor by leaving.
You were doing that. Be the change you want to be.
I was doing that before it was an actual thing that people put into practice. Yeah, I really was ahead of my time. Yeah, no, I was in a group.
So what?
I was actually a good rapper.
This was you were in your
I was early 20s. I stopped when I started when I was 18, 19. And that was just a way, to get girls, to do shows, to kind of do, like to whatever. I was a little wacky. 18, 19, and then around 23 I stopped. So there was like a 5-year period where I was doing it.
See, that's actually the age range where I think you should be rapping or in a band. You don't need talent. Just go try the stuff you like and have a thing you do that is social and gets you out there.
Yeah, if you're a rapper, if you're a white rapper over 30, you should be banned from all social media. Just get out of it while you can, kids. No, I stopped after. I was just tired of it. It was kind of this thing. It was almost a phase for me. And I hate saying that because I love hip-hop and I love listening to it, that it was just a phase. But it's, for me, it was just, I couldn't see myself being like a touring rapper, rap star, running around.
Did the rapping segue easily into the stand-up?
I was already doing stand-up.
Okay.
When I was I was doing kind of both of them at the same time. I was just sort of experimenting. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew it was fun. Like, my rap was just kind of like wacky, almost like it didn't fit in with the other people that I was performing with. A few of them didn't like me because they thought, oh, this guy doesn't take it seriously. It's kind of a joke. But I was more like absurd. I was like cringy, kind of like, I would say like wacky, very vile things just to get a reaction out of people.
So you were already doing a bit of comedy.
I was doing some, yeah.
No, but I mean, like, as your rap persona, in a way, there was like some comedy within it.
In between breaks, because I would do like 15-minute sets, very similar to stand-up, and I would like in between songs, I would kind of have a moment where I would not necessarily do bits, but I would say something like call somebody out in the crowd or do something. Someone would yell something out at me, and there would be like an interchange between the two of us, and that would make people, like, I try to be funny through that.
Yeah.
And that was that usually worked. Yeah. And again, like, I enjoyed performing music. It was fun. But for me, it was just more, looking back, it was more of a phase.
Yeah. You had that desire to be in front of the audience.
For sure. Yeah. All the time.
Do you think you learned anything from doing music that you couldn't have learned just from doing stand-up?
Yeah. I mean, the way that, and I think that comedy and, like, rappers specifically, comedians could learn from them. Because the rappers are shameless with self-promotion. I know rap guys these guys have been doing it for a month. They maybe have 20 minutes worth of material. They have t-shirts made. They have their own mixtapes. They have their own CDs that they're just walking around. Everything's online. This was 10 years ago, but everything was already online on Spotify, on iTunes, whatever it was. And they would still have CDs that they would just give to people. As just a reminder, like, this is who I am. It has their social media, everything on it. And they're promoting themselves, right? And, I mean, open mic comics are cringy as is.
Yeah.
What's stopping you from just having I've seen it.
So I should already have merch.
I think you should have merch. You should, you really should be
T-shirts,
walking around,
stickers,
shoes, the whole thing. Karen Mitch's sneakers.
I think I'm just going to start with some T-shirts.
Get your own Yeezys. Get your own brand of Yeezys.
What would I call my shoes? Can I call them K-Dogs?
K-Dogs?
Yeah, because they're like for your feet.
I don't know what You're putting me on the spot now with a great name for your... You're going to want me to improvise a name for your shoes?
Do you have any merch?
I don't have merch. Well, you see, like, that's one of the things is, like, I'm learning to do that, but I haven't really
but you have
implemented any of that.
You have done a lot of promo.
I do promo. I don't have merchandise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a pretty great social media presence.
Yeah.
And you get your own tours going.
Well, I would say, just to cut you, like, Aiden Long is the guy who puts together the Morning Wood tour.
Okay.
I just kind of...
You just show up.
I really just piggyback on my friend's hard work. As for me, no, I'm just... I drive to the places and that's it, but I'm not, like, really the guy who's putting the promo together.
Okay, but you have a car, so...
I do have I just borrow my parents' car.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have my own vehicle.
You have access to a car.
I do have access to a ride, yeah. We're kind of playing semantics here a little bit. I don't mean to. Yeah, but when it comes to... What were you saying about social media?
You have a pretty good social media presence.
I have a decent one. I mean, my following's going up, but it just takes time.
Because I'm trying to get into the mindset of not being precious and just putting stuff out there.
I mean, you want to put out stuff that you're happy with. I mean, for a time, I kind of subscribed to that thing of like, I don't care what content I'm putting out, just as long as it's content and as long as I'm doing it like 3 videos a day. Like last summer, I was just pumping out stuff, and a lot of it, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, some of this is bad. Like some of this is just not well thought out. It's not really crafted well. It's just me saying something that I think is funny in the moment.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, I might delete some of this going down the line.
But it didn't like hurt you in any way.
None of it's there. I don't think it's hurt me. No, I don't have people that are coming after me for it or doing, goofing on me or whatever it is. But there are things where I'm just like, oh, okay, that was just kind of an excuse to get the likes going.
Do you have, and now you're getting more into higher standards and...
Yeah, I'm just more cautious, or not cautious is the wrong word. I'm just a little more careful with what I'm putting out in terms of just, I want this to be good because I don't know who's seeing it. Like those Tucker Carlson videos, one of them's almost at 2 million views.
That's amazing.
I have 3 of them that are over 1 million, or it might be 4 now. So it's like, I just stumbled upon it.
You do a pretty good Tucker Carlson voice.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have him weigh in on.
It's great. Well, I keep it apolitical, right? Number 1, being in Canada, it's a little different, where it's like you're just doing. But number 2, it's like I don't want to be. I'm here to be funny before anything. I hate comedy with an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's different types of things, and I support people doing what's true to them.
For sure.
But sometimes, like, I don't know. You want it to be fun before anything else, right?
You want to enjoy doing what you do, and you want to get out of it whatever, again, you're putting into it, I guess, right? Like, you want to, I don't know, if you're doing it to preach your political ideology or your philosophy or your vision of the world, do you. But I have the very controversial take that comedy needs to be funny before anything. That seems to be a little more of a polarizing stance these days. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. With the Tucker stuff, I try to keep it non-political. I don't mention Biden. I don't mention Trump. And I think that's funnier. I just put Tucker in weird situations. Usually in like a plot of a movie, I'll do, like the last one I did just this week was Tucker Carlson in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And it's just him like, ooh, it's an island owned by a billionaire? An island owned by a billionaire where old dinosaurs chase around children? That's never ended poorly. Like, I do stuff like that. I want to do Tucker Carlson on the moon.
Tucker Carlson on the moon?
On the moon, just like him going, they say it's made of cheese. I haven't seen any.
I like it. It's like the...
I think that's just another lie from the big dairy companies to get your children hooked on lactose and get them injected with hormones. I haven't had any dairy since 1987. I'm a good boy. I do stuff, yeah, little things like that.
You know, like when they go too far with the sequel, like eventually they go to the moon or space.
Well, Fast and Furious is just a parody of itself at this point. And there's more of it. Like, I mean,
wait, did they go to the moon?
They went to space. I haven't seen any of them. I can't stand the fact. I don't know what any of those movies are. I don't know. I think I cut it off at like number 5, and then they have 10 now. So there's 5 that I haven't seen.
Well, and like the one guy died, and they just kept going.
Oh, and they kept going. Yeah, no, that wasn't enough of a. He died speeding, by the way.
Sorry.
And Beverly, no, it's actually kind of funny. It's been 10 years. No, Paul Walker was a tremendous. Like I like Paul Walker a lot. Yeah, I actually found him really charming, and he was good in movies. Like
he was in Pleasantville, which I loved. That I still love that movie. It's great.
Did you ever see Joyride? Paul Walker?
No.
It's Paul Walker and Steve Zahn, and they're perfect. They're 2 brothers on a road trip.
Oh.
And they get an old CB radio. They're in the middle of the desert, just traveling. And they get an old CB radio at a truck stop that they put in like the thing that truckers speak on. And they play a prank on this trucker on the road, and the trucker gets pissed off and ends up following. The whole movie is just them being chased by this psychopathic trucker. Yeah, amazing. In the middle of the desert. Oh, it's perfect.
Steve Zahn is the one who was in Reality Bites.
I think so.
I feel like he's like one of those. Yeah. really good and probably underutilized.
He's great, and he's older now, and he's kind of playing the dad role in a lot of stuff.
Okay.
It's so surreal. How old are you? I'm 32.
I'm 43.
Okay, so it's like there's a bit of a gap, but it's like I feel so weird seeing these actors that were big in the 90s who were like in their 20s, right? Like the cast of Scream. Matthew Lillard is playing like the high school principal in a movie now.
Oh yeah.
It's insane.
He's on it's a show about a woman who gets into crime and he's her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very because he was a slacker, this slacker teen character.
Yeah. Oh, it's also like a lot of people from that era of movies, like what the girl from did you ever see She's All That?
Yeah.
Rachel Lee Cook was her name. She's now playing like the mom in the movie. And the main character is her daughter, and she's just the wise mom who just walks in every 30 seconds to deliver an anecdote. And then that's it. Yeah.
I think it's the most upsetting for me because I am the same age.
It's crazy though, and I'm getting there too. I'm going to be 33 in August, and it's like I'm starting to see people that I grew up with. They're playing, they're in their 50s. They're playing these middle-aged, people.
Yeah. It's weird though because there's a whole thing that happens when you get, like, people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s kind of run the world. So you start to see your generation be in charge of everything.
Right.
So at first it's just movies come out that are directed by people your age, and it's exciting because it's kind of your perspective.
Right.
And they get into politics and they are the CEOs of companies, and then you watch your generation run the world and you're like, oh fuck, so I guess we're not gonna fix everything.
We're not gonna fix, well maybe not, I don't know. Oh, we're opening a can of worms here. I don't know. It's so strange to see people my age in places like positions of authority. Like I'm running in now. Like I'm in my early 30s. There are police officers that are younger than me.
Oh,
doctors that are younger than me. It's crazy.
Med school, yeah.
People that are actually like could diagnose me with something that are 27. This person could change my life, and they are. I'm like, dude, I have more life experience than you right now. And you're going to tell me that, I don't know, I have Crohn's or some shit? I don't know. That didn't happen. I was not diagnosed with Crohn's. But, yeah, it's strange, that perspective on life as you get older. Oh. Just how much it changes. And, like, again, like, I think mine's changed in 5 years.
What do you think was the last, like, the perspective shift you went through in the last 5 years?
Well, it all happened 100% during the COVID pandemic, the way it did with a lot of people.
And how was that for you?
I think before the pandemic, I was 27, turning 28. Oh, no, I was 28, I think, when it happened. It was 2020. I was 28, and I was pretty bright-eyed. I was like, oh, I'm now hitting the ground running with stand-up. This is the most serious I've taken it. And because I started at 18. I just started doing it. I dipped my toe in it. I did the Humber program. I dipped my toe into doing open mics. I would do like a couple of weeks. But again, like 27, 28 was when I was like, I'm taking this seriously and I'm actually going to do it because I'm good at doing it and I want to hone it.
Yeah.
And then it happened. And I'm living alone in the studio apartment in a very old, no central air. It's hot. It's fucking steamy. I'm describing a porno right now almost. But it's just like I'm by myself and I'm depressed. Yeah. And I remember just that feeling of just not wanting, like, I kind of lost like just will to, I didn't want to see anybody. I wasn't dating. I was working at home on a laptop, so I wasn't talking to like seeing them face to face. And it sucked. I didn't care about anything. And then I slowly kind of got out of it. I don't know. Somewhere we were talking about perspective. Yeah. But something changed me, like fundamentally around that time.
Do you think you became more negative?
I think I became very negative. I think a lot of people in my family became negative.
But like, was it like you were in a state then, or it's like now you think differently because of being in that state?
I just know that I was on a certain track and trajectory, or at least I thought I was before the pandemic. And then no stand-up, no seeing friends. I wasn't seeing girls. I wasn't seeing anybody. And I just kind of fell flat. Yeah. And it just fell. And then after, I was just like, okay, well, I have to... It's almost like... It's kind of hard to describe, and it's interesting that you asked. But for me, I haven't really fully thought it out, but there's a part of me now, like I feel almost like within this last year, and the pandemic's pretty much been over for 2 years. Like when they told everybody you can go out without a mask or whatever, it's been like 2 years, and I'm just starting to now kind of pick myself up out of it. I want to see people. I'm kind of embracing shit a little more, and it's there was just something about almost counting your blessings and just being a little more grateful in that moment. It kind of taught me to. Yeah.
I think it's interesting too because it was one of those things where it wasn't just 9/11 was a bad. Maybe I don't want to compare it to that. I kind of feel like the world maybe got worse. Or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just like, okay, there was a disaster, but everything's fine now. The hurricane is over. We rebuilt. It's like, I think there's something fundamentally where people are like, they don't have this, we don't have the same optimism that we had before.
Well, it's a world event. Like 9/11, you said 9/11. Actually, they're nothing alike and almost exactly alike in that it had this like indelible impact on everything and the way we look. Like, it really, I almost think they're going to one day call it like COVID syndrome. Because I think it really did activate something in people that just changed them like fundamentally, like their attitudes and things. But
when you study history, they talk a lot about like post-World War II.
For sure.
Because the world was markedly different after that.
And
some of that was, the negativity of having witnessed that.
Yeah.
So when they talk about why the counterculture movement happened in the 60s, it's oftentimes in this post-World War II context.
Well, and just everything that unfolded after that, right? And the Cold War was almost instantly after World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess with 9/11, you see, okay, now we have a new thing to worry about, and it sets off all these geopolitical things.
Mm-hmm.
COVID's a bit different because it's not like, oh, we have a new political situation, but it showed you how your supply chains worked.
Yeah.
And that was upsetting for me because I never really worried about that.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, again, like, I think the veil has been brought down on the establishment, where people just have a lot less trust in the establishment. And I mean, every person you talk to, just, if you need any proof, just talk to an open micer on a Thursday night. Go to Keys Comedy Club. You'll see some guys with some opinions. Keys Comedy Club, everybody.
I'm there too.
I'm there all the time. I like Keys. I think it's fun. It's a great way to like. Again, I go to Keys and I go to the Lab. Right.
Those are my kind of home bases as well.
I go to one open mic that's in an attic, and then another open mic that's in a basement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, ironically enough, the one in the basement is not the seediest one.
Yeah, no. There's some class at the Lab.
There's some class at the Lab. There's class at Keys. It all depends on what you define class as. Kevork is like a friend. I've known Kevork for I think 13 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He's a couple years older than me, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah. But,
so you met him before he had his club?
I met him, we used to do a show out in Mississauga. It was called Can You Make Him Laugh? And it was right around Square One area. It was run by a guy named Marvin, or just Marvelous he went by. And it was hosted by Jay Martin, who's a legendary Toronto comedian. And we were I was 19 at the time, and I lived right down the street. I was living in Mississauga. That's where I grew up. And I would drive there in my mom's minivan every Tuesday, and I would get close by, right? And they had an actual audience. And he would come just with his big backpack of props and stuff that he had.
He had props?
He had props, yes. He doesn't like me talking about it. He's going to get mad.
No.
He's going to get mad. No, but it was fun. I'm not he thinks I'm goofing on when I bring it up, but I'm not. I'm actually
It's fun to see people's evolution, right?
It is. Well, he's probably going to get pissed at it, but he used to have a joke, check out my Apple headphones, and he would pull them out of his bag. He'd have a backpack of all. He was like, Carrot Top has a chest, Kevork had a backpack, and he would just pull it out, and it would just be 2 headphones with apples taped to them. Yeah, and he would do that, and sometimes the apple would fall off, and it was funny. It was funny. It was genuinely funny. I know he's...
My favorite physical comedy that he still does, he has a TV in the club, and he'll talk about how he got it hung, and then he'll
Yeah, got it hung by
it.
Mexicans.
He'll latch onto it and do a pull-up. And my brother hung my TV, so I'm always meaning to get a clip of that to send it to George and be like,
we film it every time he does it because one day it's not going to work out the way he wants it to. And we don't want him to hurt it, but it's going to be, he knows the risks. He's aware of the risks. Right? He's like a firefighter. You know going in
one day your
what
number
might happen.
Could get called.
Yes, one day you could be sent home. But no, he's just a character. I love talking. I was on a podcast with Ben Albert like last year, and Keeves was only like a few months in at that time.
Yeah,
but we were just commiserating just about how much we love Keeves. Like we were just talking about how much we love it and just how like what a fucking character he is. And I love anytime talking to people who also go. Because they know the experience.
You become part of it.
You become part of it, yeah. And it's just fun. But again, like he's growing some credibility. I mean, the guy fucking packs the place.
He promotes better.
Yeah.
Did he ever do any rapping? Because he seems like he came out of hip hop, like that promotion, shameless promotion.
Yeah. Well, no, Kevork looks like SoundCloud if it was a person. He looks like a SoundCloud account if it just became a guy, like a robot. No, I don't think he ever did any of that. He does kind of look like he's got a little bit of a techno thing going on, but no, I think Kevork is just Kevork.
He's his own thing.
Yeah, you ever see The Big Lebowski?
Yes.
Yes, he is. He's the dude.
He's the dude.
He is the Armenian dude.
Yeah.
He just kind of lives, and it's perfect. No, I love Kevork. He's great. I gotta keep, because we're kind of like, we're joking about Keys. I gotta keep stating that I am a fan of Kevork.
We're on the wall there.
I know. I don't want to be taken off.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like, I made a joke the other day to all the people that had never come to the show. It was like their first time. I'm like, you see all these pictures? Those are our souls on there. He collects souls. We cannot leave. He stuffs us in a chest at the end of the show.
Oh my God. I feel like Keys would definitely be a good setting for a modern Twilight Zone.
Well, I've also done the thing of like, to people when they go, I'm like, this does feel like a place that you like go to, you like end up at after making a wrong turn in a horror movie. You just like, oh shit, okay, is this where we get gas? And then you knock on the door and this guy just,
yeah, well,
all gelled up. Hello.
The thought I had when I went there, because you have to go through an alley and then up a fire escape, and you have a voice in your head that says, I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And then, because of our culture right now, you have the other voice saying, this is what you're supposed to listen to, and then what people don't listen to.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever listened to it in my life. And I'm a guy. I'm a guy. Yeah.
So it's like, the comedy club is like selecting for people who don't have a proper risk metric.
No, they don't. Yeah, no. Pretty much every person that goes there is a fool. Like, really.
Or
like,
a daring adventurer.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between being a daring adventurer and being just, a little challenged. Got a bit of a problem. No, it's just a fun, kind of cool thing. And again, he has pro comics that are going that are, and some people that like it. And I mean, certain nights when it's a packed house, it's fucking great.
And even just because it's such a small space, I like that. It got me to really think about the audience and focus on them and learn how to pick up their vibe.
Well, I'm also, even me, because, I've done it for a bit, I'm getting better. Even, I find it's helped me improve just, even improvising and just talking to people and just goofing on the room and just trying to find something new to kind of, ooh, this is funny. And Kevork's dressed this way today. And, yeah, it's just, it's a different place. And it's, it's, I think, a reputable club at this point,
For sure.
Shout outs to Key. You my homie, Key. You my homie, dude. Yeah. Not too fun.
What are your other favorite clubs?
My other favorite clubs. I mean, I love Yucks. I've tried to go on, I've gone up a bunch of times. I've done the Thursday show and stuff. They haven't really taken the liking to me that even though I've done really well on that stage a bunch of times. And again, like, the Royal, when it was doing its thing, it's now coming back
as
Dark Comedy Club. Dark Comedy Club. Yeah.
Okay, so I started after the Royal went under, and I feel like it's like the friend that everyone talks about.
Sure.
You know, you're newer to a friend group and everyone's like, oh, it was better when Kevin was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I missed something with the Royal.
Did you not go? You hadn't started?
No.
When did you start?
I started March of 2023.
So
maybe it was still around and I just didn't.
The club closed at the end of August. The Royal closed at the end of August. Yeah. But they got some cool stuff that they're doing there now. I'm not going to spoil too much of it because everybody's going to have to go see, but it's pretty cool the setup they have in the back.
It's a little different this time.
I was there Friday. Yeah, it's very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is it like Rob Mayhew still is running it with a different guy? Old
Robbie Mayhew? No, he's still doing it. I don't know too many of the details in terms of who's owning what and signed what, whatever, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
And what?
Jeez.
I still miss Nothing Fancy.
I didn't do Nothing Fancy a lot. I did it a few times, but I enjoyed it. It just wasn't like one of my staple go-to places. But then...
it was in Kensington Market, which, I don't know. I feel like Kensington should have another comedy club.
Kensington's got some cool stuff. Yeah, I don't go to it nearly as much as I maybe should be. Like, as a person who lives in the city, Kensington's like one of the oldest parts of... Like, it used to be... Kensington used to be crazy. Like, my dad talks about it. Kensington used to be like a wild spot. Crazy after-hours joints. And I think there still are, but... it's a little different now. But... if we're talking about clubs. Comedy Bar I still love to perform at. And then the Comedy Bar East I think is great. Those are like some great rooms that are genuinely they're packed. Sure. They are fucking. I'm gonna say something really cringy. They're electric.
I saw Mark Norman at Comedy Bar East.
Yeah.
And it was perfect.
Yeah.
Like he's
He's phenomenal. I love him.
I don't know how to explain it. He's just like just when you're seeing like a really high quality comedian and you're in a great setup room, you're like, this is how it's supposed to be done.
Right. Yeah, I don't. There's a few, like even the Cabaret down there, over at East.
The East.
Yeah.
I can't picture it right now.
The Cabaret at the East I like better than the West one. It's more spacious.
Okay, I'm partial to the Cabaret space in the West one just because that's where all the weird Tuesday stuff happens.
Yeah, it's fun.
I feel like the Tuesday open mic at Comedy Bar West is like the most rock and roll mic, where the audience will get kind of rowdy, and you feel like you have to be electric.
I haven't done the mic there, but that's interesting. No, I don't know too much. I don't do like the formatted stuff. Maybe it seems fun. It's not always my thing, but yeah, interesting. I'm trying to think of other clubs. Yeah,
the Corner.
Corner I've done. Corner I haven't been, but I've been up a few times. I just the Corner's a great spot. Yeah.
I did it with Blair and found out it's like one of the only accessible clubs in Toronto. The Corner.
Yeah. For what, for like wheelchairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they have the elevator.
A lot of them are down a basement staircase.
Yeah, that'd be a little rough. I don't know. I haven't really thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a thing that I really. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a guy who walks and is, I guess, privileged in that way. I don't know. You're putting me in a weird spot right now where I'm now thinking of, oh fuck, okay, well, I guess I can't go to Yuck Yucks anymore.
No.
I have to be an ally. I have to fucking it is interesting.
Have you been to the comic book store? I think what it's called.
Oh, is it Sidekicks?
Sidekick.
I went once. Yeah, and I liked it a lot.
I love that space.
It's a great space.
It's a clean mic, so I'm never gonna go there all the time. But just
is it clean? Like actually clean? Like you can't do dirt. Yeah, see, I don't like that.
It's like don't swear and no dirty content because
But
it's for their clientele, right?
This is my whole thing. What is dirty content? Because dirty is almost subjective. I understand that there's sex stuff, but it's like different things are going to offend different people.
It's like, imagine you were there with your family.
Yeah, but again, people's families are fucked up. My family jokes about weird stuff. My family's come to my comedy shows.
Like younger family, like kids.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a dirty joke or two from my grandfather had jokes that, looking back, I'm like, that was not legal to tell an 8-year-old.
Yeah, grandparents are the worst people.
Well, they're the worst people, but the best people. I was lucky enough to have like really good grandparents. I was actually like, they're characters, each one of them, and I remember them fondly. They're all gone now, but it's like, I was actually really lucky that like they informed me like that, like I have a part of them in me. Like, it's correct. That sounds weird. I have a piece of my grandfather in me right now. Still,
how many grandparents did you have?
I think traditionally you do have 4. I think
when you were a kid.
I have all 4.
All of them.
Yep.
Shit.
Yep. And they were all around, for the most part. And again, like they were characters, each one of them. But yeah, I mean, like my mom's dad.
Can you do an impression of any of your grandparents?
I can do my grandmother Mildred, who would always yell at my grandfather to get real. She would use 90s basic bitch slang on my 78-year-old grandfather.
Amazing.
Get real, Ray. That's what that was. Yeah, Ray was his name. And I always remember I'd be in the other room listening to them yell at, and they were great together. Like, they were fucking hilarious. But she would yell at him just over any whatever nonsense thing. But she would be like, "Get real, Ray. Get real. Get real." And I would hear my grandfather wore like moccasin slippers in the house. So I'd be in the other room listening to this and kind of laughing, and I could always just hear my grandfather's slippers just walking away, just fluttering against the floor as he walked away, defeated.
Amazing.
It was fucking great.
So that was Ray and Mildred were
my mom's parents.
And then who were your dad's parents?
Melba. I had a grandmother, Melba, and then Frank.
Melba and Frank.
Yes, old school.
What's your background?
So Dewitt is a very Dutch name. I would, apparently if I was to go to like Amsterdam or one of those places, that's like a big thing.
But were all your grandparents born here?
They were all born here, yeah. But, so like mainly Irish. I'm Irish on 3, other than my grandfather Ray, who's like a German guy, or his parents were like big time Krauts. Big time. Yeah, big time. I can say that word. I'm taking it back. Mick and Kraut are my 2 ones that I just use whenever I meet an Irish person. I'm like, Mick, please, like shit like that. We're taking it back. We're using it. We're it held us down for a long time.
Yeah, I guess a Mickey is actually like a slang. Like when you call the little ball of booze,
is that what it is?
Mickey, it's
probably
referencing
the Irish. Yeah,
but I feel like it's cool now.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know. I don't think anybody... The Irish are not really the ones who, like, complain about, oh, this joke or that joke or this name or whatever. Yeah. They don't really do that. It's actually kind of funny.
Can you imagine doing stand-up in Ireland?
Well, people have done it, and I mean, like, it's a great place for stand-up.
See, I feel like I would be scared to do stand-up there because the audience would be funnier than me.
The Irish are, I think, probably pound for pound the funniest ethnic. Like, they are, like, again, my family. The thing is, the Irish are people who they're equally hilarious, equally dark, equally cold, and equally kind. And it's very much, because it's a very dark history, and there are people who, like, again, like, there is this weird sort of cloud over them.
It's a weird culture because they do like to razz people, but then they are really nice. Like, they're very kind,
but they do have an edge to them, and a cult, like, if you meet them, and again, those are the ones there, but it's carried over here.
Yeah, because there's always an interesting thing, like, Italian American is its own culture that isn't Italian, right?
Oh,
and
for sure.
Same thing, like, Irish people here have their own culture that's kept going.
They do, and it's different because as generations go by, because the Irish have been here for 300 years, right? So it's like as generations go by, you have fewer and fewer ties to your ancestral home, right? So again, like I don't know who the president of Ireland is. I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not in touch with that. I'm not Irish, really.
And it's if you think about like Boston's Irish history, you know, they have the parade, they have a lot of Irish last names.
For sure.
But people haven't lived in Ireland for so long that it's...
They don't know, some of them don't know where Ireland is. Like they just, well, I'm sure they do, but it's like,
Yeah.
It's, Southie's a strange spot.
Have you been?
I've been to Boston, yeah. I haven't been to Southie. I have no business there.
Yeah.
I have zero business going to some of these places. I'm willing to admit that. I'm like, no, I want to stay out of I want to be like where the class is. I don't want to be where, I don't know, Patty O'Seamus Shaughnessy and in the Rough Around gang or whatever fucking guys. I don't, again, like, I'm fine with just not...
Where's your hometown, Mississauga?
I grew up in Mississauga, yeah.
And is that, your parents are still there?
My parents are still there. Mississauga is just like a giant food court. Just a giant shopping mall, yeah. It's all vape stores and fucking shawarma shops and...
I think I just know Square One.
Well, Square One's like the only... It's pretty much the focal point, like, of Mississauga. It's like the one place. There's Port Credit, there's a few places... It's a nice place to grow up. I don't think it's a great place to live your entire life out because it gets boring.
Well, I don't. One of my friends was saying this last night. She thinks everyone has to leave their hometown, even if your hometown is in New York City.
I just had this conversation with somebody else. Yeah, I think it's the healthiest thing. By all means, go back. You can go back, but I think to spend time, even just like again, I grew up in Mississauga. I live here. I now live 25 minutes away. Right. Yeah. I'm in a different environment. I'm riding the subway. I'm shoulder to shoulder with people.
Nobody here knows your friends back home. We don't judge you on the same metric you were in your place of origin. For sure. Well, again, Mississauga is basically just another, like an extension of Toronto City. It's big, it's bustling, it's becoming that. Not as vibrant, but it's the suburbs. It is what it is. But I feel my whole thing is more... just to add to, you got to leave your hometown. It's like, where I grew up, people took the bus, people drove places, you're on public trip, but you're not on the subway. The subway's an entirely different thing. Like, my mom grew up in the city. She was taking the subway at, like 11 years old. She was taking it, right? Yeah. That would inform your life, having to ride the fucking subway. You're in a tube underground with God knows who, right? That would inform your life a little more. My mom was like smoking cigarettes and riding the subway. She was a good, like, she lived in a nice neighborhood, whatever, but that was the 60s, 70s, right? And that was just a different time, and I think now, I look at the way she grew up, and my dad was the same way. I look at the way they grew up and where my friends grew up, and it's a different, you're not riding the subway. You're not shoulder to shoulder with people. You're not necessarily considering... if I'm walking home at night, do I have to slowly turn, be careful and slow down when I turn this corner to make sure nobody's hiding behind it, or it's just a different way of life. And a lot of those guys out there can't admit that. They think they grew up tough. It's a little... You think young cringy. People today can't admit that I'm talking about people in my home area. Oh, okay. They act like they got a little bit of stank on them, but they don't. They really don't. Some of them do. Some of the teenagers I remember when I was growing up were pretty wild, and I got some wild, crazy shit. I have a few wild stories, but it's again, I think there's a part of me, maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit, because there is a part of me where I'm like, in a place that's kind of mundane and safe, there's fewer consequences for people, which makes people almost even more dangerous, I feel. Because they can just feel like they can kind of get away with shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I remember kids that I went to high school with, and I tried to kind of, I avoided this myself, but I remember kids who were just up all hours of the night, drinking, smoking. They would go up and down streets, breaking into cars, stealing valuables, and nothing ever happened to them.
There was no consequence.
There's some kind of like curse, I think, to suburban living where there's nothing to do and it breeds like
boredom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just,
the boredom.
You're at the mall doing crime, like, or wherever you're just.
Crime is a ubiquitous that like there's there's obviously a higher degree in certain places, but yeah, I mean there were just people, they just did whatever the fuck they wanted. They'd go into house parties, kick holes through the wall, steal shit. I remember a guy getting kicked out of a party when I was younger. I was like 18 when this happened. We were at a little backyard party. A guy came who wasn't invited. They kicked him out. He and his buddies came back about an hour later with baseball bats and started hitting people.
Gosh.
Yeah. Fucking crazy.
There's also that, I think wherever you are, there's like a lawlessness to young people because they haven't experienced any consequences yet. So they have to do the stuff that shows them not to do this stuff.
Well, with yeah, and I think it exists both. There's a variation that exists in the city, and then in the suburbs, I think it's a different thing, where it's a little. I think people in the city are cautious, where people in the suburbs are comfortable, and then people in the suburbs are almost cautious, where people in the city are kind of comfortable. Because it's like a different environment,
Yeah. It's like if you have no natural predator, you can just grow.
Yeah.
And so I think, people who... And I feel like you see this in open mic comedy where people who come from rougher neighborhoods are more likely to talk about like how scared they were or like that they weren't a big dog because if you acted too tough, there were people who would put you in your place.
Well, I was one of those guys. It's so funny that I'm talking about this. I'm just like, no, people in the suburbs are soft, man. They don't have stank on them. I'm telling all these stories about guys with baseball bats and fucking... But, yeah, I mean, it's just people oftentimes where I grew up. I'm more than willing to admit that I wasn't the big dog. I wasn't a tough guy. I wasn't a fighter, right? I wasn't really an athlete. I wasn't any of that stuff, right? I was a guy who liked movies and comedy. And that's translated into whatever the fuck this is now, right? And it's fun, but I'm willing to admit that I grew up a certain way that kind of put me on the trajectory to doing this stuff, whereas other people grew up differently. And they grew up fighting, right? I knew friends of mine, I knew a buddy of mine who just grew up constantly fighting people all the fucking time. Walking home from school, just everywhere, And he eventually kind of had to curb that and tone it down as he got older. But, just people who, he came from a tougher background. And just one where he had to be physically aggressive.
And you had all 4 grandparents.
I had all 4 grandparents, wonderful people. No, I mean, I had, my parents were characters, but I didn't grow up in this place where I was like, I need to be physical all the time. I just didn't. I got in a couple fights as a kid, but I was never the person I just avoided it.
Yeah.
I never ran, but I just avoided shit with people. If I knew that they were idiots and they were kind of liable to do stupid stuff, I'm not going to be around them.
Yeah. A big chunk of life is just avoiding idiots.
Yeah, I think if you're... Yeah. If you have a head on your shoulder and, you're aware of things that could happen.
Were you into comedy at a young age?
Very. Yeah. I mean, Seinfeld was my first guy. I'm telling you for the last time, that album, my mom had bought it. I remember coming downstairs and she would be listening to it. Like late at night.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what stand-up comedy. I'm just like, oh, this is the guy from the TV show. And he's on the radio right now talking. She's just playing it over a speaker and laughing at it.
Yeah.
And I remember that was my first thing. And then I started seeing it on TV. And I'm like, oh, you can go up with a microphone and tell jokes. And that's cool. And then around high school or middle school, I started getting into... Because I moved around a lot as a kid. So I was in different schools. And comedy was like this constant thing for me. And movies as well. Chris Rock I started getting into, Chappelle. Carlin was the guy who fucking blew the ceiling off of my head. I grew up in Catholic school.
Oh, okay.
Right? Catholic school, Catholic parents, going to church, right? And here this guy is, whether or not you agree with it, whatever, I don't always do it. But again, this is a guy, I would be, I think 13, 14. And I remember watching You're All Diseased, and he has a bit at the end where he's like, there is no God, none of it exists, it's all bullshit. And I remember for a Catholic kid to hear that.
It was the most punk rock.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, never mind any of the other stuff. That was like the one thing. And then fuck the government and fuck everything. Like, he would have literally bits where he would just list off people that he wanted to kill, and be like, just wild shit. And I'm like, you can fucking say those things? It's crazy to me. The idea, just stepping outside of the confines of that, it changed my perspective in a way. Like, it really kind of, I think, informed not just my sense of humor, but just fucking life in a way. As weird as that sounds. But I remember when YouTube came along, me and my buddies, we would be doing group projects together at my house, and we would just sit by the computer. We just ended up just watching old Carlin YouTube videos, right? And just laughing our asses off because the guy was just so profane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
He has like a kind of timeless quality to him as well.
Yeah, I think some of the comedy and the way it still doesn't hold up that well. There are times, I think towards the end, he really kind of got a lot more nihilistic and a lot more, I mean, there's one special that he did called Life is Worth Losing. Oh. And the whole set is just it's a graveyard. The set is a graveyard on stage. The set design is just him standing in a graveyard telling jokes. And it's bizarre. If you have a chance to watch it, go on YouTube and watch clips. He's just talking about suicide, murder. He's got like one clip on there that goes viral. People clip it and, whatever, and splice it up with different images of civil unrest and all kinds of stuff where he's like, the government doesn't care about you. The government, he just goes on this rant. And that is a little much for me. I find Chappelle's...
Does that kind of mirror the whole trajectory of... Like, I feel like there was a point in time where comedy overall was just getting very nihilistic.
I think... I don't know exactly. I don't know. I think... I don't even know if it's nihilistic now. I think that there are people in comedy who kind of now... There's an abundance of people... They don't really even have a point of view, it seems. They don't really have a perspective. And everyone has a perspective in life, but they're not really using their perspective to tell jokes. They're not telling it from their point of view, it seems. They're just kind of going up talking about umbrellas and charcuterie boards and cats.
So and just like, general life.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm kind of listening to these people. I'm like, who are you? And I had to learn that too, because I was kind of this guy who was just doing jokes for the sake of being funny.
Yeah. I think when I first started, I excelled at just writing on a premise. So having an idea and just writing on that. And then it took me a while to introduce any stuff that was just a story about my life.
Yeah.
And I almost wanted to just skip it, but you realize when you watch other people, they have to at some point start to talk about themselves.
Right.
It anchors the rest of it into an actual person.
Right.
And it makes it worth watching. Because you don't just want to hear someone spew their opinions. Otherwise, you'd read a nonfiction book that's cited.
Right.
Like, when it comes to, like, wanting someone's perspective, you also want, like, a piece of them.
For sure. Yeah, I think that say what you're going to say, but maybe make sure it's unique to you, I think. Make sure that it's coming from your point of view and who you are, and it's, you're putting a little bit of your life experience into it. I'm still doing that. Like, I'm still, like, trying to implement parts of me into the comedy, so I'm not just talking about this, this random thing. I want to make sure that it always kind of goes back to me, and maybe something that's going on in my life, or something that's, and it's interesting. I'm still trying to work that out.
It's interesting, though, too, because of, like, your age, like, you're still, like, or maybe you just hit it, that point where you kind of are who you are.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that I'm, there are a few things that I'm still
But if you think about,
out.
like, when you did comedy for the first time at 18, it's hard to be deeply rooted. 18 to 20 to 22.
Yeah, when I started doing comedy at 18, I hadn't had a girlfriend yet. I was this I wasn't dating, I wasn't doing anything. I was kind of this shy, sort of nerdy kid. And I'm doing comedy. I didn't have anything to really draw from. I was just talking about dicks.
Which,
when in doubt, just talk about dicks.
We gotta hear people's views on dicks.
I mean, there's far too many in my opinion. Far too many dick takes. I mean, I love a good dick joke. But yeah, I mean, my life has changed fundamentally since, just the idea that I'm this guy who is now living on his own in Toronto. I'm by myself. I have this perspective of a guy living in the city, right? And whereas I didn't grow up in that, and I've changed,
Now you get into like your middle-aged man humor.
I'm getting close. Another, what is middle age? Like 45, I guess? I don't know.
Honestly, I think it's younger than people think.
They say that I think like the world thing is like 72 or so it's like whatever. I think 37 is the age that they actually argue middle ages, but you have people now that are living, it's not uncommon to live to 100 now, right?
And people look younger than ever.
For sure.
Some people, but I think there's a moment in your 30s where your like middle-aged mindset kicks in.
For sure.
Where you sort of just like, you kind of realize like, I'm just me and there's my death, and you can see that it's coming.
Yeah,
it's not like the worst thing, but it kind of, once it's just a moment, and then you realize you're the same as all the other adults, and you're there, and now you're middle-aged. But people don't like it because they think middle-aged is like an insult. It's not.
I think it's so funny because I'm not there yet in my life. I'm not this person who's like this middle-aged guy. Like I picture a middle-aged man, like somebody like me, somebody who does have who's married, maybe has a kid, maybe has some, like my dad when he was middle-aged, like when he was like in his mid-40s or 50 or whatever, like that's what I picture middle, and I'm not that guy yet. Like, I would love to have a kid. I would love to get married.
I don't think it's achievement-based.
No, I think I have a superficial view of what it is.
But what would you want that would make you feel like, okay, I can be middle-aged now?
Oh, I don't know, probably a fucking Lamborghini. Maybe something, again, superficial. A family. Like something. I feel, but for me, like, again, I don't know. I'm cool just being, right now, kind of by myself.
Yeah.
Or not by myself, but single.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you're not somebody who's like, oh, this is the life I want to, you want to carve out the family life eventually.
At some point, yeah. I think I just need to grow the fuck up at this point. Yeah, I mean, like, this post-pandemic thing has made me think about that a lot. Yeah, because there's been a period where I wasn't dating. I wasn't thinking about any, like, or not, I was thinking about it, but it was just, like, I was depressed. I didn't want to go out with anybody. I didn't want to, like, talk to people. And it sucks. You got to kind of pull yourself out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me.
But you want that, like, your ultimate life to still be, like, touring and stand up?
Yeah, I don't know. I could see myself splitting time between touring and being a family man at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to pan out. That's a part of it, actually, that's something that excites me about life, is that I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And I haven't felt this way in a long time.
So we really are out of the pandemic mindset.
I am out of the pandemic mindset. Yeah, no, this is getting a little eerie, what I'm saying right now. It's almost like famous last words.
And then he died on the way home.
There's going to just be Alex Dewitt, 1991, 2024, pushed in front of the subway 20 minutes after this recording.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Alex.
No problem. Are we already done? Jesus.
For coming on the Karen Mitches podcast.
Absolutely.
And we'll play this at your funeral.
Jesus. I don't want my mom seeing this. Fuck, she's gonna be pissed. She would be pissed hearing this. She's not gonna see it, but she would be so mad hearing this. This is welcome to the Bad Omen podcast, everybody. Bad Omens with Karen Mitches. She is a Karen after all. She is a Karen.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Karen.